commentating on my page, trying to find out where I stay. I'm in the state with some bitches, clocking dollars, grilling steak, waving poles on the net like you really about your gang. You ain't never hit a yard and had to really bust a brain. You ain't never been betrayed by the homies that you gave. All your blood, sweat, and tears locked down, holding shanks. You ain't never felt them change while you counting down them days. Been stabbed up in the back and left with stitches on your face. Hey, yo, what's good with everybody, man? I hope everybody's having a productive day, feeling blessed. And like I always say, it's one life, one chance. We only got one chance to do this right. Let's get it done. With that being said, man, y'all see who's on the thumbnail. I had mentioned in one of my older videos, and they said to talk about it. I had to give it some time, a very long time, on the basis that I needed the man to transition and become comfortable in his new living conditions, which would be from the main line to the SNY. But we're talking about a death row inmate. The person right here you see across the screen. Crazy story about him. So let's get right into the video. Now, he was somebody I had the privilege of talking to, I think after my first year on YouTube, right? It was when I started doing Mexican Mafia stories. You know, it's crazy how so many people reached out when I started talking about the NF or the Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brotherhood. I allowed myself to become accessible, and people really wanted to share their personal experiences and their personal stories with me. And it's been an incredible journey being able to take those stories and publish them online. And, people love to hear about them. People are intrigued, and I've been able to accommodate people's interest and entertainment. And he's the one that gave me some stories about Deathrow, El Tremendo, and a couple other ongoing things that were going on, a couple of pegadas that were taking place on Deathrow. But he was more or less telling me about Deathrow, what Deathrow was like. And I remember the last conversations we had was he was going back to the main line, but, him and another partner of his were going to transition over to the SNY. They were just done with the politics. They were on death row for a long time, and it was a tripped out thing that he said, right? He basically said all the Sureños and the MM members that were on death row were kind of like disacknowledged from the rest of the world. Like, in his head, man, I was a Sureno. Put in my work. He worked for a Mexican Mafia member named Turi from Cucamonga for a very long time on the streets and in county jail. But he felt like everybody on the main line just viewed them as they're nobodies. They're dying. They're going to die. Let them enjoy their life, whatever life they have left. They have nothing to worry about. Before the new law got passed where they, abolished the whole death row program and sent everybody back to the main line, that's what he said he felt like for years. Every time that death row inmates try to make contact with the yards, they were disacknowledged. They weren't responded to. And even if they got a response, they weren't being favored. And he said that was one of the reasons why Hector and Ronnie, they became real powerful. They were able to accumulate so much power because they recruited anybody that was willing to work for them, because they seen that their own brothers weren't trying to share no power, no territory, no money with them. Like, I guess you could say they were placed on disregard, because what can they possibly do from death row? And I heard that same story about, these 3 NF members that in 1992 or 1993 killed so many NF members and NF dropouts and murdered a couple of women. As a NF hit list, they had directives from the Nuestra Familia to go out there and kill NF members, and they did that. Got sentenced to death, and were on death row with no support from their organization. While their organization was taxing these yards and taxing these soldiers and creating these street regiments and having street regiments assigned to them, they took over every aspect when it came to the organization, the mob, and left these 3 death row inmates with nothing. NF members who probably committed more violence, more hits on behalf of the organization, and the ones that haven't did nothing for 20 or 30 years that sat up in a box in Pelican Bay didn't want to share no wealth. Because when Silencio, Bobby Silent Lopez, reached out to Pelican Bay and was like, man, can you guys give us a city? Give us a regiment that we can make a profit from and we can actually control from here. We have something that's ours, bro. The NF said, Chales. They didn't say they didn't deserve it. They just said, Chales, we ain't got nothing for you guys. Pretty much left 3 NF members to fend for themselves. And that's why you hear about Silencio. You hear about a couple other cats that were on death row in Salinas Valley, pretty much running their own program, not really
getting involved in the state and federal faction when it comes to the NF, because they realize, bro, when they needed their brothers the most, their organization the most, just was something small, just a small favorito to so they can make some ends meet on death row and not feel like they're just dying broke and dying without, that their sacrifices were in vain, that was for nothing. They weren't appointed nothing for themselves. But now that they're on the mainlands, of course, they're trying to take control over everything. So I heard this same aspect from this kid right here. And, we had great conversations. We talked for a while. I got to chop it up with them all the time. And, as we told the stories, we had a fallout. A fallout was a misunderstanding, but then we try to, continue to talk and have conversations, but I didn't trust him after that. And it was because, he took he gave me some stories, and I told him, I go, look, man, my purpose is, I'm just trying to share what's going on with these main lines, and I'm going to find my own narrative as to downplaying it. Yeah, you're going to tell me what's taking place, whether it's politics, whether it's just backstabbing, whether it's betrayal, whether it's just a personal perspective about prison. I'm going to take it, share it, and I'm going to, provide my narrative about it all over social media with a positive note and a positive message for people to listen to, right? So, there's been times where some people have asked me for favors, and I'll be like, well, what do you need? You need a package? You need a, JPEG? By all means. But I never extended my hand to nobody that told me all this information in the past 2 years, where I was like, hey, you give me story, like 4 stories, I give you $400, $100 a story, and it has to be bangers. I was never about that. But I did look out for one of my subscribers who told me like 8 months worth of prison stories that he endured while he did a 10-year prison bid. And those stories came out to be true. And that man's stories alone enabled so many people that were a part of those stories to come forward and tell me their stories or their perspectives or how it went down and what they seen, and gave me an opportunity to meet and conversate with, not conversate, that's not even a real word, converse with so many people and share more stories with you guys. And that's what I've been able to do with this YouTube channel. So, he told me stories, and I looked out for him like just a little favor, favorito. And then we had a fallout. What happened was he provided me with stories. I wrote them down. And then he reached out to another content creator and sold him the same stories that he gave me. So when I seen those stories online, I looked at my notes, and then I was like, and I contacted him. I was like, hey, my boy, those are the same stories that you just given me. And he said he was just down bad. He was down on his luck. He apologized. He didn't mean to cause a feud and a miscommunication. And I was like, nah, no problem. I really don't need these stories. I was just answering your phone call, heard your story out, heard your life story out, heard about the whole love and loyalty, love and betrayal on the force documentary, heard it from his version, from how it went down with him. Not the documentary on Amazon Prime, the one you see right here on Best Documentaries on YouTube. But I was aware of it. I watched it afterwards. And so I just took those stories and I threw them away. I was like, bro, I'm not going to hate on the next content creator. He's doing what he does. And if he has to pay for it, then by all means. And I left it alone. And then I didn't talk to him for about 4 months. In our last conversations, we were just talking about life. I used to feel sorry for the dude because I was like, man, you did what you did. You murdered all those people in Riverside. You're famous. I used to tell him, like, bro, you're way more famous than me. I'm just a YouTuber, bro. Like, you got a documentary on Amazon Prime about you, bro. That's bad, bro. That's awesome. I think that's like the American dream for anybody, to have their life story told on a public platform like that, on a streaming platform. But overall, man, the dude was just a humble dude. Like, he accepted his fate, that he was doing death row time, that he might die one day. And then when he heard the news that death row inmates were going to the main lines, like, he didn't really explain to me why he was going to transition over to the SNY. But more or less, he was just like, bro, just the politics, bro. Like, I'm just done with them. He had no reason. He was never backstabbed. He didn't get betrayed by anybody. He was part of a lot of the propaganda that was going on. He's the one that put me up on game on Ronnie and Hector. Like, he had a normal life on the yard on death row. He was just a Sureno that programmed, that worked out, that answered the gallo and just did his own thing. And when things came up, things came up. He talked about Pelon, hooking up with transgenders on the yard, having a girlfriend on the yard. He told me a lot of things, but, when he said that, hey, bro, once they send me to the mainline, me and one of my brothers, we're just going to bounce out, bro. Like, we're just going to go live our life. And that resonated with me for a long time. So I wanted to do a video about it. He told me, hey, as soon as I cross over, you're more than welcome to, when I leave Deathrow and cross over, you're more than welcome to talk about it. It's all good. And I was like, okay. So I waited even longer than that because I do know he did an exclusive interview on Hector Bravo's page. So I waited even longer. I was like, let Hector Bravo get his shine on about this man, and I'll talk about it later. And it just tripped me out because I didn't try to pry in the man's mentality of like, hey, bro, like really, if you haven't did nothing wrong and you haven't crossed anybody up and you haven't really betrayed anybody, or you haven't really been betrayed by your organization, you just been a Sureno that's just a regular programmer, not involved with the politics, then like what is your need to cross over SNY? Like you're gonna go to the mainline, and if you conduct yourself in the same fashion, in the same sense, like what do you got to worry about? Dudes in prison that want to politic will politic and get hurt by it. That's their choice, and that is their consequences, and that is their outcome because they choose to get involved. If you choose not to get involved, I mean, there's some high hopes there that you might not get politicked on, or you might not get involved in nothing. They might just leave you alone. Because, you know, some people don't need to go SNY. And I never been on here encouraging everybody, hey, bro, if you're active and you're a mainliner, go SNY. You know, that is the best bet. I didn't encourage nobody. I'm just saying, hey, if you're on the mainline, this is what politics look like. This is what prison politics look like. This is what happens to these people. And utilize there's examples as great examples to exemplify what could happen to you. Because nobody's going to go to jail and really believe that, hey, bro, just because I'm in prison and I'm around the homies, bro, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to live it good. There's a reason why the SNY population is 10 times bigger than the mainline population. And it ain't because everybody just decided to one day give up and say, you know what, I quit politics. So I didn't understand his reasoning for it. Other than I could just grasp the understanding that, you know, he just wanted to, you know, talk to his wife and his kids whenever he wanted without the interference of prison politics or somebody sending them to the hole and preventing them from getting a visit. And I mean, I told him, I go, look, bro, if that's the decision you're going to make, you're going to go SNY, bro, and go enjoy yourself, bro. Just don't join no SNY gangs, bro. That's what's going to ruin it for you. And it's going to make your decision frivolous. It made my decision frivolous, and it was a pathetic excuse of me to want to rebel and resist and rise against my old gang by joining a new one. So I broke it down to him what the SNY yards look like, how they operate, and we went from there. And, you know, the moral of this video is this. Like, I could have did a video like he wanted me to. He really wanted me to do his version of the loyalty and betrayal on the force. That whole documentary about him and that CO that he knocked in county jail, and the letter writing. And I was like, he was trying to get $1 out of it. And I was like, bro, why? When I could just do a reaction video to the Amazon Prime or this video here on YouTube. Like, I don't feel no need for that. You have your fame, you have your recognition, you have your spotlights. One of the most intriguing, incredible stories that I've seen in regards to prison gangs. It was a pretty credible documentary, if you ask me. I go, I don't need for it, bro. I really don't have no need for that. You know, enjoy your fame. Enjoy what's left of you because, you know, you're still doing life. You're still in prison. Go enjoy your life, bro. However you can make the best of it. That was the best thing that I can tell that man. But I just sat there for months before I did this video, before I wanted to do this video. And I was thinking to myself, like, the man had no reason to go SNY, nor did he have a reason to stay mainline. We're just talking about somebody who had life without the possibility of parole. And, you know, he was once a death row inmate, condemned to death, could have died. And instead, he just woke up one day and just said, bro, I'm going to live my life how I want to live my life, my best life. And maybe he felt like the SNY yard was going to give him those extra essentials, those privileges that will entitle him to live a better life. You know, something like that. When you wake up and you're just mainline for all these years and you wake up and say, bro, I just want better for myself. I'm going to SNY. If that's the conclusion you reached, that just goes to tell you that, bro, everything that he's seen on the mainline, he was just, you know, this ain't it for me no more. This is not how I want to spend the rest of my life, whatever is left of it. To make it invaluable by just politicking with a gang or answering in the gang. And I'm pretty sure he heard all the stories because he watched my channel for years. And he used to always tell me he used to watch Paradigm Media News, Hector Bravo's. He watched all the prison channels all over YouTube. And sometimes he would like hit me up like, hey, what do you know about this video? And I'll go break it down like, oh, it was about this, it was about that. And he goes, that's really happening out there? And it was like he was in his own world. Death Row was its own world. And they had no idea what was going on in the mainlines because nobody was informing them. Nobody was addressing them, no, unless they had a concern that they had to bring up with Death Row. But it's like he was a mainliner for a long time, but it's like he wasn't. He didn't know nothing about none of the things that I was talking about or whoever else on YouTube was talking about. So I felt it. I was like, damn, they really had them dudes just like on disregard. Like, bro, you guys are gonna die. You guys go die and just stay there. Don't worry about what we're doing on. Don't even try to get involved. So it's like he was part of a world that he didn't know about anymore. So I can see why throughout time, when he realized that he has an opportunity to go to the mainline, he was like walking into a world that he probably would have got swallowed up in behind politics. Politics would have probably ate him up because they've been out there politicking for years where they get well versed in it. These guys become political expertise when it comes to gang politics and prison politics. And you're sending a dude out there that's wants to be part of the life just for, like, you know, self-admission, self-reflection, self-respect. And he's not even going to know how to politic because he's been incapable of it. He's been sitting in the cell ready to die, waiting to die. No contact with nobody. Just a little rec room yard that they just been talking to the same people for the past 10, 20 years. And you're going to go throw them out there in a den of wolves. A den of wolves where just because you're a Sureno or just because you're a Norteño or just because you're on death row and you're a part of the program doesn't make you equal to them because you don't know nothing. So it makes it real easy for an organization to prey on somebody and utilize somebody and manipulate somebody who has no knowledge of what they're walking into. So that's what I think. That's why he transitioned to win SNY. And, you know, I wish that man the best. It was a pleasure. Most of our conversations, bro, to be honest with you, were about prison and gang politics and jail. He had a lot of personal stories about Turi from Cucamonga. But I got to know the dude on a personal level, on a personal basis. And, you know, I got to hear about how he talks to his familia, how he every night, you know, he would just chill, use the phone whenever he could and talk to his daughter, how he wanted to be a present father for the remaining part of his life. And, you know, kudos, man, and you know, incredible journey that he's going to be able to take because he decided to finally say, you know what, I'm going to do what's best for me. And what's best for me is SNY. That's how I'm going to live my best life because in jail and prison, you ain't going to live your best life. Not when you're letting the next man dictate every aspect of your life. You know, sometimes just like on the streets and in prison too, sometimes you just got to stand up and just, you know, give yourself a chance, bro. Really give yourself a chance. Stop worrying about what the next man says, what the next man thinks, what the next man thinks about you, how the next man's trying to destroy you or dictate every aspect of your life. Bro, you're not on this planet to live for another man, for his blessings, for his respect, for his accountability. None of that. And I think that's where people fail at in life is that we're too busy trying to impress other people, worried about the next man's opinions. When you gotta master the art of not really caring anymore, of really not caring at all. And I think that's what that man finally did, and that's what he woke up and finally realized. And, you know, somehow, some way, a lot of active gang members might have room to criticize him for that. You know, I commend the man for that. You went from waiting to die, a disgusting death for the crimes he committed, to, you know, being released to the mainline and finally making the decision, like, if this is the rest of my life, bro, I am not going to do it under the power and umbrella of an organization that didn't acknowledge me or my people for 10 years on death row. I'd just rather go live my life. And sometimes that's what it takes. That kind of courage and commitment to yourself, not the courage and commitment that it takes to belong to a gang and being loyal to a gang. Sometimes that courage and commitment, the only one that deserves it is yourself. So that's how I wanted to end this video. So with that being said, like I always say, is one life, one chance. We only got one chance to do this right. Let's get it done. Peace.